Hello, and welcome to the Distillery. I'm your host, Harry Lee Shanglun, and today we have special guest, Oceana Mackenzie, also known as Osh. Hey, Osh, how are you doing?
Yeah, really good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I am wearing an Urban Climb supporter tee, and it's a
Nice.
nice mahogany kind of color with a little love heart. Urban Climb
hmm
Collingwood is a gym that we both know and love. What are you wearing?
Always was, always will be Aboriginal shirt.
That's awesome. And that's by
Yeah.
Clothing the Gap, right?
Yes. Mhm.
So cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, the reason I'm wearing this shirt is so ordinarily for the distillery, I always wear a plain gray t-shirt. I have like 6 of them. But I thought I would wear this for continuity because I've just spent the majority of the waking day on your Instagram as you, posting stories about everything from architecture to music to food to critical theory to faith and science. And it's been a blast. Thank you so much for letting me take over your Instagram account. Can I ask why? Why did you let me take it over?
Well, I saw a few climbers, one in particular called Alex Honnold, let another climber, Kai Leitner, take over his account. And it was pretty much when the Black Lives Matter movement was happening, like in full swing. And it was really cool because it was like kind of a time for white people just step back and let like Black voices be heard and kind of just uh, brighten them a bit, I guess, with our platforms. And yeah, so I thought that was a really cool idea. And first of all, I got Ronja as well, who's been on the distillery, as my first person on my Instagram. And that was really great. And yeah, and then I just thought of you as well. And I thought it'd be really great to, I guess, get a whole bunch of people who have had lots of different experiences. Yeah, get on and share their experiences on my account.
It's so cool. And I mean, Ronja's takeover produced a lot of stories about her, I guess, like living in Australia as a brown woman. And you've storied it as well. So you can, or archived it. You can see the stories that she produced on your account.
Yeah, in my highlights, or you can see it. So just check it out after this.
There you go.
Yeah.
A little banner for it. yeah, I'm not sure which way to point either. I always mess it up. I always like point off screen or something, and then I have to move my hand and pretend that it's just design. Anyway, so that's really cool, and I guess like it's really lovely that you framed it as giving people of color a platform to a different audience, a wider audience often, and you're actually specifying like white people stepping out of the way and letting other voices be heard. Is that something that you value and prioritize in your life?
Yeah, I think definitely trying to make it more a priority in my life, and like, yeah, I would say definitely, yeah, trying to keep it like that.
I remember you were telling me that in conversations with your sponsors, for example, you were trying to like get them to acknowledge Black Lives Matter and have that critical conversation about race.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think it still seems like a silly thing that we need to be talking about, but it is something we need to be talking about. And we're living in 2020. Like, if you're not talking about it, you need to change something, to be honest. Like, it's just not acceptable. To be honest. Yeah.
Totally. And how did she? I mean, you are an incredibly talented climber. You're on the Australian team. You're gunning for 2021 Olympics now because of COVID-19. How did you get into climbing?
Yeah, so my parents used to climb when they were much younger, or my mom specifically. And then my sisters like got into it when they were younger, and they joined a squad. And then I just like got into it as well and kept going and loved it and couldn't stop really.
What's the feeling of being in a climbing family where almost everyone, like all of your siblings, almost climb, right?
Yeah, pretty much all of them except maybe one or two of them. Yeah. I mean, it's great. It's it's kind of funny to think about like not being in a climbing family because it's just normal now. Like when we sit down to chat, we usually talk about climbing. You know, when we're just like going anywhere, we're just like talking about climbing. If we're not talking about it, we're at climbing. It's super nice. I love it. It's great.
Something I've observed in the climbing community is that climbers cannot shut up about climbing, like in the nicest way possible.
Yeah.
So it's nice that that's true even when it's family.
Yeah, it's like as soon as you get stuck into climbing, it pretty much takes up your whole life. It's just you talk about it, you climb, great. Yeah.
And what for you is like the most joyful expression or moment that you've had in climbing, or that climbing has brought you, or some of them, doesn't have to be one?
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think there's actually like one, but I mean, like climbing with people is one of the things I love most about climbing. So when you have like a really great people of climbing and you're just like having a good time, you're all vibing on the same climb, it's probably like one of the best moments. But also like I'm very competitive and I love competing. So also like getting good results is fun, winning is great. But yeah, like yeah.
And you do that a lot. Like you win a lot.
Yeah, I try.
Do you have any like memorable competitions that were emotionally intense, or in
Mm.
either direction?
Yeah, and last year in Meiringen, I made my first World Cup final. Was the first World Cup of the season. That was definitely a big moment for me. Really, really exciting. Wasn't really expecting it, so it was very surprising, and yeah, it was a great moment. Also, winning the combined Oceana championships last year as well was pretty cool.
Can you describe to me like what it felt like when you found out that you had won?
Well, it's all the three disciplines in the one competition. So it was like first I won bouldering, and then next was speed, and then lead. So it was kind of like I got more nervous the more events I won, because it was like, oh, there's
Like
goals
the
coming
stakes
close.
are
Like,
higher.
yeah, it was like, okay, I won bouldering. That's really exciting, which is my preferred discipline. So it's kind of like, okay, cool, glad I got that. And then yeah, just kind of kind of like, oh, okay, it's really exciting. And then also like I had a lot of I guess pressure on myself to win all three disciplines in that competition. So it was kind of like relief as well, like after each discipline winning all of them. But yeah, I was just very happy, I guess. Yeah.
And what are your thoughts? Because I mean, that's the format for the Olympics, right? This is the first time that climbing is represented in the Olympics, and the format is those three. Oh, I can't remember them anymore. Bouldering, lead and speed, and you
Yeah,
multiply your score between them. Is that how it works?
I think so. To be honest, I'm not like 100% sure on the scoring, but I think it's pretty much like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need to know how the scoring works if you're winning. But the
Yeah.
I guess like, did you have any thoughts about that format? Because I know it's been a little controversial.
Yeah, I mean, at the start, I was kind of like, oh yeah, this is so annoying. Like everyone should be able to focus on their own disciplines and not have to do all three. But then when I actually thought about it, I quite like all three disciplines. So for me to just do them all was like, oh, all right, this is actually pretty cool. Like it's quite exhausting having to do all three disciplines in the one day, but like it's a sport after all. It's going to be tiring. And well, no, I don't mind it actually. I kind of like speed climbing and lead and boulder, so this is fun. Climbing.
I'm always interested in the psychology of highly competitive sports, and like particularly when you get to that level, what's the kind of preparation that you do for a big competition?
Well, I mean, it's like physically is just like a lot of general training, I guess you would say. Mentally, I still am not very, I would say, good at it. Preparing for big competitions, like before comps, I'm extremely nervous. I like get super anxious, and it's like not really a good time before the competitions. Usually on the day, it's not as bad because it's like can't really think about it, just have to climb, which is my favorite part. But yeah, beforehand is definitely like just trying to stay as calm as possible and not think about it. So.
That's really fascinating. Like the feeling of nervousness that must arise, and
Mm-hmm.
then when you're actually doing the climbing, it sounds like you don't experience that anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It's like even like seconds before I get on the wall, I'll still be nervous, but as soon as I get on the wall, it's like, okay, yeah, this is what I do. I can't control from it. Like just climb as you do. Yeah.
Where do you think the pressure comes from?
I'm it's like mostly myself. I have a really supportive family that like they know that I love climbing for climbing, and it's not really about the results. So, which is really nice. I'm really lucky. So yeah, it's definitely just me wanting to perform well, wanting to get good results. Yeah, it's most of myself for sure.
Mm. And what happens if you don't get the results that you're aiming for? Or does
I
that just
think
not happen?
no, it definitely does. But I'm slowly getting better at each competition. I'm still learning. So like a few years back, I would be just like devastated. I'd just be like sad for days, and like my family wouldn't even want to like talk to me about the competition and stuff. But I'm now getting better at it and being like, I mean, it's just one comp where you have bad results. There's always going to be more, just laugh it off. There'll be another one, I guess, which is still
Yeah,
hard,
nice.
but trying to think about that process. Yeah.
And you're, quite young athlete who has a long career ahead of you. What are the challenges that you faced in getting to where you are now, and what are the challenges that you think you'll continue to face?
Well, actually, a good example of that is like being in Australia. We don't have the best facilities in the world. We're definitely very new to like competition climbing in the style. So that's kind of a struggle in itself, and being so far away from where most of the comps are, because they're usually held in like Europe and Asia. Asia's not so bad, it's not so far, but definitely in Europe and like the US, it's very hard to travel there. And so that's kind of a struggle, and it's very expensive as well. But also like there's, I guess, little things that I've only really noticed like looking back on, but being like a young female in a sport is like you just kind of get like remember little things where like, oh yeah, that was like pretty hard. Like when I actually first started climbing at our local gym with my sisters, I wasn't technically allowed to climb because I was like too young and they wouldn't let me. So I would just like kind of traverse along the wall, and it was like totally not safe. So I kind of just like did that until they let me climb. I was like, I'm not taking it for an answer. Like I want to climb. I love this sport. So I'm just going to traverse the walls and make it dangerous. You guys are like, okay, we have to at least put it on the rope. Yeah.
I love that. Maybe that's how you got into bouldering.
Yeah,
Doing
exactly.
traverse problems.
Yeah, legit. They also had like a over 16 bouldering area. So you had to be over 16 to climb. And I used to like sneak in, and the staff would like come out, and I'd like run out of it and be like, oh no, it's just, yeah. And they're like, we know you've been bouldering. I'm like, well, come on, just like, I love bouldering, so let me go in there. So, yeah.
And yeah, like thinking about the challenges that female athletes face, like, I mean, women across all sectors in society are often marginalized and find it much tougher to break through that glass ceiling and succeed. Do you experience that in competition, in bouldering, gym cultures, all that sort of thing?
Well, like I said, it's kind of like little things that just all kind of add up, I guess. Like there's never really one thing where you're like, oh, it's like you just kind of get tired of all the little things. Like most of the time I'll be at the gym and I'll like send a climb that's pretty hard, and then you'll get this like dude come over and he's like, oh, like I tried that climb and I saw you do it and you made it look easy. And I was like, oh, surely I can do it. You're like, well, like, why would you assume that? I'm really strong.
Yeah.
Like, why did you think that? So it's just like, I don't know, very, yeah, you just kind of get those things a lot, and going into gyms where people are just totally underestimating you all the time gets tiring. And yeah, definitely something you don't want to deal with every time you go into the gym. But
right, it's like all these small things that are adding up, and you have to live through it all. So there's a lot of energy wasted.
Yeah, exactly.
Just as an aside, like watching you climb is such a pleasure because you do make it look effortless, even though it is something very difficult. But B, also really inspiring in the sense that like your attitude on the wall is quite playful, and it always feels like you're trying new things, not sure if they're going to work, and then just like making it work. Do you take that into a competition, or do you think that those are distinct things, like playing on a wall versus trying to compete and do really well?
I would say they're two different things in a way. Like when I go when I'm at training, like having a playful session, it helps. It's kind of tricky. It's like it helps for the competitions because like this is when I play and then this is kind of when I work, but doing the play helps me when I work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, maybe it's just to dig in a little deeper. In what ways does it help?
So it's like, I mean, obviously just like playing around and stuff. When I'm climbing my best is when I'm having fun. So like if I'm having a bad session, I'm usually like mentally fuzzy, like not having a good time. But when I am like having a good time, I can try really hard and hang out with friends is like the best training I can have. So then it like helps with my competitions because I'm stronger and I feel like more mentally, like relaxed, so I can perform better in competitions. Yeah. But I'm definitely, awesome. I would say more like focused, not as having much like fun in competitions. More serious, I would say.
You get your serious face on.
Yeah.
And where do you find your motivation and drive? Like what gets you up to train or, to climb?
Well, I'm very competitive. So like just thinking of like goals I want to take. I don't know. I guess like some days is just really hard to be motivated. Like I will have bad sessions and it's really frustrating. But yeah, like just thinking of being stronger and like also I just really like climbing. So that kind of motivates me. It's like this is really fun. So I want to go and do it. Like it's
So yeah, you're doing what you love. You have goals. You're competitive. You're trying to like tick off those goals. What about those low motivation days?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess like some days you just go to the gym and you're unmotivated, and it's like, oh, I don't really want to try that climb. I don't really want to try that climb, and the training, like the weight's so heavy, and it's just some days it's hard. Which I guess is just gonna happen. Like climbing so much, you will have bad days, but sometimes push through, sometimes don't. Yeah.
It sounds like a very like, oh, you let it be situation.
Yeah. I mean, I guess me saying that now sounds more like loose than I usually am. Like I don't. It's funny because I think this year was the first year when I ever actually like took off a session for training. Like I didn't feel good, so I wouldn't train. Like a few years ago, I wouldn't have even thought to do it. Like it was not even a thought in my mind. Like you have to train, you just have to do this session, even if you feel really weak and it feels really hard. Like so, I think it's important though to like learn and listen to your body and be like, okay, no, I'm really tired today. I need to take a rest.
Yeah. Okay. So what instigated that change, and do you like it? Like, is this a better way now?
I think it's a better way, but I'm still not very good at it. I still need to like learn a bit more. Still sometimes I'm like exhausted. I'm like, oh, but I still push through, which it can be quite dangerous as well. It can lead to injuries and things, which will lead to more time off, which is not good mentally for me anyway. But I don't know what started it. I think it was actually my sister. I can't remember which one. I have a few. I have 5 sisters, if you didn't know.
Speaking of which, one of your sisters sends her love.
Oh, nice. Hey, Lulu. Yeah, I think I was having like a really bad session. I think I was like crying at one point or something. Like I just wasn't good. My sister was like, just take the day off. And I was like, what? Like I can't take a session off. She's like, why not? It's one session out of like so many. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I guess I could do that. Like it was very hard, but then I like got the results from it and I was like, okay, yeah, no, that feels good to do. Yeah. So.
That's great. And a great illustration of the support that you get from your family as well.
Yeah, exactly. They're great. Love them.
Lulu's just mentioned that Will and May are here too.
Hi, everyone.
We had Will and May on the Distillery, which is like everyone on the Distillery earlier, where they talked about route setting. And it's really nice actually thinking about the different sides. Oh, Molly also says, Mom, Dad, and I are watching.
Hey, Sam.
This is great. This is like the most live comments that we've ever seen.
Whole Mackenzie clan.
Yeah, and I guess so you let me get back on track. You took your you learned to take time off in your training, and you found that that's a helpful way to approach rest. Now that we are in a global pandemic where training is getting really hard, how are you faring, and what are your strategies for that?
yeah, so I'm pretty lucky to have a home wall down in my garage. Like it's quite small, but I'm obviously very lucky to have climbing at all, where there are people who are just stuck at home without any. But like it's quite stressful, especially at the start when it was like, oh my gosh, if we were gonna have well, we still are having our Oceanic Championships at the end of the year. But now, like, sorry, let me start again. We were gonna have our Oceanic Championships in like March, but they got pushed back because of obvious reasons. So then now they're at the end of the year. So at the start, it was very stressful having a comp coming up, where it was like kind of even stressful to go to the gym because it was like pressure to stay home, but also pressure to go to the gym because there were competitions I had to prepare for, which I guess is kind of still relevant. And yeah, with like Victoria going into lockdown for the second time, it's definitely stressful again, but I just guess I need to like remember my privilege where I have a wall at home and like a good family support at home as well. So I'm like pretty lucky and I don't really need to be complaining at all. So yeah.
I think we can recognize the difficulty and difficult position that other people have been put into, and recognizing our own privilege. But like at the same time, it can be annoying and frustrating to say, "Oh, but we can't climb the way that we want to." At the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So, yeah, I'd love to ask a very important question for myself now, which is, how do I get better at climbing?
This is a hard question for me because like I haven't really done any like coaching or anything. The only thing I do is just climb. But like I said, when I climb my best is when I'm climbing with my friends and having a good time. So just like enjoying it. I mean, like if you want to get better, like have a few classes with people, get some like technique classes or some strength classes, that kind of thing. But yeah, also just like throwing it down with friends is really fun, and that's the best way to get strong, I think. Yeah.
I love that you've underscored friends as like get strong with friends.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, it does make a difference. Like when you're climbing by yourself, it can also be really fun to just have a session by yourself and just be in the zone. But like, yeah, when you're just climbing with friends and you're all getting on the same climb and just having a good time, it's like the best part about climbing for sure.
Yeah, I'm really like, I asked you earlier what your motivations are, and one of them was competition. It's really fascinating because I don't think I have that bone in my body. Like I'd be terrified. But social activity is definitely a huge motivation for me, and the playfulness of it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
So good. So what about life outside of climbing? I don't know if that exists, but I've heard. What interests you? What are your interests outside of this, and how do you balance your time?
My interests. I really like going out for brunch, which is
We're in a good city for it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of I really like going out for brunch and like shopping as well. I'm quite into like fashion, but I'm also like quite into diversity, I guess, like, and bringing diversity into climbing. Like I really like learning about new things, and especially in diversity, like racism and sexism. I read a lot of books about those topics, which I'm really into. I'm a big foodie as well. I love to bake. So I also do that a lot. And balancing that with climbing is like pretty easy because a lot of it comes to like just education, which is like another part that has to be part of climbing. Like you have to have a balance. And then also baking is something that I do like on the weekends. Same with brunch and shopping. Yeah.
And you've brought your baked treats to the gym before, and I've indulged, and they were very delicious. So thanks for that.
No worries.
Just to ask more about diversity in climbing and the things that you're passionate about, representation and inclusion and access. What's the state of affairs at the moment, and how do we change it if it needs to be changed?
Yeah, well, it definitely does need to be changed. Like in climbing, I feel like a lot of people say that climbing is very diverse, but a lot of the time it is just like white people and white men in general, and it's like you can say that, but like, yeah, like we've been to gyms, or I've been to gyms where, like I said, people don't think that I'm a strong climber because I'm a woman, and especially a young female, and they don't like it when I tell them. So like, I guess just like reading, educating yourself is really good, and calling people out is always good. Like if you see somebody being like, oh, you know, like let me show you this. If it's a white guy being like, oh yeah, I can definitely show you the beta on this climb, and it's like just take a step back, let them do what they want. Maybe ask them first, like you know, think about it first before you act, that kind of thing. Which seems like simple things, but always needs to be said to some people. Yeah.
And a few weeks back, you shared on Instagram a post about route names that for this is for outdoor routes, and I don't know very much about this. Can you share a little bit about what that was about?
Yeah, I don't know too many details as well, but it's definitely in the climbing culture to name routes outside. So when you climb outside, you get the privilege to, if you climb it first, you get to name it a special name that you like. And a lot of the times they can be pretty offensive and just horrific, really. Some of the names are just horrific. And I guess that comes along with the same, like, people say that climbing is diverse, but then you have these names of routes and it's like, well, it's obviously not. Like, there's a reason those names are there, and it's because of these people. So yeah, I don't know too many details on it, but there's definitely a lot of route names out there that are not appropriate.
Right. So routes that exist, I mean, there's some famous ones around the world, none of which I'll be able to remember. Like Midnight Lightning, maybe. Maybe I'm making these up. Who knows?
To be honest, I don't really climb outside that often, so I don't really know.
Yeah. We're both talking out of our butts, but like, but you're saying that the ones that are coming out recently by some first ascensionists are really gross and exclusive and flat out like oppressive and marginalizing in their conception.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's really distressing and appalling.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, yeah, and people think that it's like, oh yeah, but like it's just a name, and there's like, there must be a story behind it. It's like, it's not really, it doesn't matter. Like if you are naming a climb this and you have a reason behind it, the reasoning isn't always going to be there as well. Like you can't just have access to the reasoning and ask the person who's always made or set the climb or made the climb or climbed it first. So you have to, like, yeah, you have to realize that these names aren't appropriate ever, even if you have a story for them, I guess. Yeah.
A phrase is coming to mind from a few years back, and unfortunately I can't remember who to attribute it to, but it's this idea of intention is not magic, which is like, even if you have good intent, that doesn't magically prevent hurt from occurring.
Yeah.
And like, if the thing is actually actively harmful, you saying, oh, I didn't mean it, like, doesn't matter, because harm is still being perpetuated.
Yeah, that's great. That's really true. Yeah.
So I guess as a final question, taking the sum of it, we've heard your journey, the joys, the pressures, the challenges, the motivation, all the kind of stuff that you have to do with climbing. Do you have any, not personal goals, but like community goals for the climbing culture, and where you would like to see climbing as a sport and as a people's moving forward into the future?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I want it to be more diverse so that it's a welcoming space for everybody, because even for me, like, it hasn't always been the most welcoming. It's still been a really great experience, and I love the climbing community. I think it just needs to, we just need to educate a few more people and try and make it as inviting for everybody and as, opening for everybody as possible, which is a goal of mine. Slowly trying to get there. But yeah, and also just, I don't know. I mean, climbing is just so great. It seems so sad that it's not a welcoming environment for everybody, because when it is going to be, it is like a really amazing community. So hopefully we can get there if we all put in the work. Or I guess mostly like white men can put in the work, but I think everybody should do it.
I think that is the best closing sentence. That's so good. Like, we're going to get there if we all put in the work, but white men, put in more work.
Yeah. It's a bit of a mumble,
pull up your socks.
Like, yeah.
No, that's awesome. Osh, it's been such a pleasure to chat with you. Thank you so much for joining us on the Distillery.
Thank you so much. It's such a great thing that you've done. It's been really cool to listen to and watch. It's really great. Thank you.
Cheers. Only by virtue of how amazing all the guests are.
No, you're great, Mohar. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks. Chat soon. The central irony to me is that I've named this the Distillery, and I still can't pronounce it. Like, I'll just stumble over this word every time. Anyway, that's fine. You're watching The Distillery. This is an online interview series. I'm your host, Harry Li Shanglun, and we have new episodes daily. Is that true? Yeah, it's true. So do check back. We have a website, distillery.site, and I'm yet to announce the future guests, but I'll put them up soon, and you can check out previous episodes. And you can also see our Instagram at distillery.site and Twitter at distillery-site. As we mentioned in the episode, Melbourne area is just recently announced in lockdown. So if you're in that situation, please take care of yourselves and your loved ones. And if you're not in the situation, take care of yourselves and your loved ones. Bye, everyone.